And then there were four. The 2024 African Nations Championship quarterfinals have passed, and all three East African hosts, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, have all been eliminated in the quarterfinal stages, as well as the North Africans from Algeria. Madagascar, Morocco, Senegal, and Sudan are the four semifinalists. We're going to recap all the action of the quarterfinals and look ahead to the semifinals coming up next on the African Five-A-Side podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the African Five-A-Side podcast. I'm your host, Maher Mezahi, and as always, this is brought to you by africasaCountry.com. We're currently taking a publishing break on Africa as a Country, so there won't be any articles on the website throughout the month of August. But if you still want to support and help out the website, I'm going to put a link to our physical edition. It's like a magazine, or you can have a digital copy in the description below. It's something that we worked on for months on end, and it was about the protest decade, a little bit more than a decade, from 2009 to 2024. I believe that's when the world has seen the most amount of mass protests. And we take a look at it from an African perspective. What happened, who protested, what worked, what didn't work, and it's really, really good analysis. I have an article in it, so if you do want to help out the podcast and Africa as a Country, please go check out the link in the description below. So, we have been a little bit absent concerning Chan, to be fair. Haven't really spoken about it that much, but I have been keeping an eye on it, and I watched every single quarterfinal match. Overall, I've been pretty impressed. I think this Chen has lived up to expectations. What really was going to make or break it is if the East African hosts, are going to be able to pack the stadiums, which they did, if they were going to have good results. All three of them got out of the group stages, which I think is pretty decent, and none of them were ridiculous in the quarterfinals, even though they were all eliminated. But more important, than measuring if they make it to the quarterfinals or the semifinals or the finals, what I was really looking to see was, could the East African nations, the hosts of this tournament, could they create a bond and a connection with their national teams? And I think particularly in the case of Kenya, but the others as well, that was probably achieved. So I think for them, it's been a successful African Nations Championship, and for the rest of the continent as well. Even though now that I think the hosts have been eliminated, I worry a little bit about the overall attendance coming up in the semifinals and the final. So let's talk about the first quarterfinal, Kenya versus Madagascar. And this is a match where Benny McCarthy shuffled the team again. This is something that's been constant throughout the African Nations Championship. Benny McCarthy hasn't been scared to make changes in his group. Even when a player has been really hot, like Austin Odiembo, who I believe scored 2 goals in the first 2 matches, he hasn't hesitated to sit him on the bench if they need to defend a little bit more, or if he feels like they were going to be exposed to counterattacks. He's not scared to sit Odiembo on the bench, which is what he did in this match against Madagascar. Also, tactically, the way he lined them up, they were doing things like using inverted fullbacks. It's really to great success. And so, tactically speaking, I think one thing that I've learned about Benny McCarthy, I watched him at Amazulu a little bit. I didn't know what to expect really, but tactically speaking, I think that he's willing to try. We learned that he's willing to employ modern tactics, number one. Number two, he isn't scared to make strong decisions in terms of benching popular and established players. And number three, he's capable of building a group, a united, solid, together, a group that is together. So I think this was a huge resounding success for Benny McCarthy. But he lined them up in, I think, an interesting way where they were very narrow initially at the beginning when they were beginning the construction of their attacks. And then the wingers would be hugging the touchline, particularly Benedict Muchiri. He would come very wide on the left, and his link-up play between him and Ryan Ogam, who started the match as a sole number 9 striker, was really, really good, and was probably, alongside set pieces, the main way that Kenya were dangerous throughout the match. Yeah, most chances, as I mentioned, were from set pieces. The goal came in the 47th minute from a set piece. But even in the 2nd minute of the match, I think it was Aboud Omar took a free kick that was deflected, and that was nearly a goal as well. So Kenya came out with their hair on fire. They had early chances. They were creating a lot from set pieces and from the Muchiri space on the wing, and they score in the 47th minute. The goal comes from Alphonso Mija. Huge moment for him. And you think, again, look, I'm one of those, maybe this means like I'm an emotional person when I watch, but I get caught up. Like as soon as they score that goal, I'm thinking to myself, oh yeah, there's no way they're going to lose this game now. And just make these premature assumptions. But just like you could feel you could feel it in the stadium that everybody was celebrating. Everybody felt like something's unlocked, like they're on the way to success, and that's why I felt the way that I felt. And to be fair, I mean, just a few minutes later, Kenya had a second via Ryan Ogam. It would have been his third match of the tournament, but um, it was ruled illegal by VAR. It was a cross that went over. I think it was Omondi pushed the defender in the back and then nodded the ball down with a header, and Ogam finished very cleanly. So it would have been 2-0, and if it was 2-0, I think Kenya would have comfortably qualified to the semifinal, but that was a goal that was ruled illegal. I don't know if it was a real big push-off. Usually for that, I'm looking for extension of the arms, and it was one that was like 50-50, and because the referee, I don't think it was a weird one because he signaled that it was a goal, and then he called a foul after that. So it was a weird one where the original ruling on the pitch was actually a foul, but not really because he initially signaled the goal. So it was one that even referee could tell was very hesitant about, and it could have went either way. But nonetheless, Madagascar slowly and naturally grow into the match. And Madagascar, don't forget, are a side that made it to the semifinals of the last African Nations Championship. This is a side that over the last 7 or 8 years, whether it's the Chan or the African Cup of Nations, has made an incredible amount of progress. And it's not just from, like in the case of Comoros, for example, recruiting players from the diaspora. Madagascar have been forming their own players. They had academies run by the JMG academies, who are running the ones in Bamako, that were running the ones at Azak Mimosa in Paradou in Algeria, really the best chain of academies on the African continent. They had a branch in Madagascar where they they formed players like Ibrahim Amada, who's, I still think, the captain of the Madagascar national team, and definitely one of the most capped players ever in the history, or Andrea Carolus or Paulin Voavi. So these are players that are very talented, technical, quick, not the biggest players. I think maybe the people are like that on the islands, but very, 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 I think more similar to Southern African football than Eastern African football, if we're going to stereotype a little bit. And in this team, I mean, the midfield, whether it's Dax, who, I don't know his full name, but everybody calls him Dax. He has short, bleach blonde hair in midfield. Was one of the players of the tournament in the best 11, the previous African Nations Championship. I wouldn't be surprised if he isn't part of the best 11 in this one as well. Lalena, number 8, I believe, has 2 goals in this tournament. They're both playing midfield, and they both do a very, very good job. They're very industrious. The goalkeeper, Toldo, 39 years old, unfortunately, because if we had discovered this guy 10 years ago, I think he would have been a very hot commodity in the final 10 days of this transfer window. 39 years old. He has played in 5 matches, 4 man of the match performances in this tournament out of the 5, including this match against Kenya. So he was very, very good as well. So yeah, Madagascar, they slowly but surely grow into this match. In the 70th minute, they win a penalty. In my opinion, a clear penalty. The arm was in outstretched, unnatural position. And it is dispatched with a plum by Fenohasina, number 9, 1-1. Kenya hits the post in the 80th minute via Marvin Nabwire, but then really, we only get half chances until penalties. And in the penalties, it was a case of the Madagascan goalkeeper, the Malagasy goalkeeper. I don't know if it's Madagascan or Malagasy. I always get it mixed up. But Toldo went the correct direction for every single kick. And eventually, the penultimate one he saved, and the very last one he forced wide. So I think he was the man when it came to penalty kicks. But one thing that I picked up post-match, and this is what Benny McCarthy said, and I think this is overall my takeaway, is listen to what Benny McCarthy says, and I'm quoting. I think from when we started, from when I came in, I thought the level of the team was okayish. But to where we are now, I think these boys have made a huge step. Don't be surprised if you see this squad graduate to the national team level, because that's the trust I have in them. I think they're good enough to make the jump to the national team because they made the jump from the local league to the Chan, and they are looking like champions. Don't be surprised if 3/4 of the squad graduate to the national team. That's what you want out of a Chan. Who cares about winning? Yes, the prize money is nice and the silverware is nice and everything, but if you can build a group, if you can build a foundation, a base for your national team, if you can build a bond with your supporters, if you can inspire confidence, if you can have politicians speaking about how you've brought the country together, that's a success. And so I think Benny McCarthy couldn't have hoped really for a better unfolding of the chant. Even though they're eliminated in the quarterfinals in penalties, I think it's been a major success for Kenya, and again for Madagascar as well, to make it to the second successive semifinals of the African Nations Championship. And again, over the last 7-8 years, they've also qualified to the AFCON for the very first time, and then for a second time as well. So, great job by both teams. Kenya were statistically better, but it was tight. It wasn't like they dominated them. Um, but yeah, like I said, the most important thing was to create belief before the 2027 AFCON. I think this was perfect in that sense. After that, we have Morocco versus Tanzania. Morocco came into this match with also like Benny McCarthy was experimenting, but Morocco, they had with the injuries or suspensions, they had new center halves. They brought in the Raja Casablanca youngster, the center half, Shakh. They also used Anis Bash, who's playing most of the matches as a defensive midfielder, can play as a fullback, but they put him as a center back as well. They brought in Baba on the left wing, this winger who, instead of Imad Riahi, I think was out for suspension or injury as well. And then Ayoub Malouha was the striker, but since he's been injured, Oussama Lemloui replaced. Basically, like, they've been really digging into their entire 25-man roster, and they've had to. And to be fair to them, the quality hasn't dropped at all. In fact, it's been the opposite in many cases. Like Oussama Lemloui, leading goal scorer of the Chan with 4 goals. He probably should have started from the very beginning instead of Ayoub Malouha, who I think is a good talent. But Lemloui is obviously, in my opinion, the best Moroccan striker since January. Over the last 8 to 9 months, he's been the best Moroccan striker. And I think there's a very good argument that he should be starting for the senior Moroccan Atlas national team heading into the AFCON. Anyways, so I think this was, because of all the changes, this was a less impressive Morocco, and of course they're playing against a host nation in the host nation's country. So they're playing against Tanzania in Tanzania. Tanzania, this is practically their national team. If you just take away maybe one midfielder and then 2 wingers, this is practically their national team. They're just missing Mbwana Samata, Simon Msuva, and then maybe Novatus Maroshi. But other than that, the goalkeeper Aisha Manula. But other than that, this is the Tanzanian senior national team. Overall, the first half, there wasn't too many chances. One of the big questions I had coming into this tournament was Clement Mziza. Is he going to play as a number 9 or as a wide forward? Because with Yanga, he plays more as a wide forward. And it's sometimes you want like that, even though he has like the body of a number 9, he's strong, he's wide, he's thick. Sometimes you want that kind of player isolated on a fullback, because they can bully them, they can attack in the air on the back post, especially if he has a skill set where he can cut in and take shots from outside of the box, which Clement Mziza can do. But I don't think Tanzania had another number 9 that could play there, so where Mziza could play off center. So it was one of those where I was thinking, it's a good opportunity to watch MZZ as a number 9, because I always wondered, is he better at the 9 position or the wide forward role? I think the wide forward role, and I think this match kind of confirmed a lot of the things I had in mind, because he was doing a good job of like running the channels, occupying space, but he was just not that clinical, trying things that shouldn't be tried, like a bicycle kick. And when he did have the only real clear major opportunity of the entire first half, which came in the 45th minute in stoppage time, plays a beautiful combination with Suleiman and Mudathir Yahya, and he's in on goal, but he's off balance. It's just, it never looked like somebody that's completely in control and sure of himself, and that's such a big part of being a very good finisher if you're a center forward. He just basically very hastily kicks at the ball with his left foot, and it was a very easy save in the end for Mehdi Lahrat. So yeah, the first half there wasn't really any big chances besides the Mzize one. The second half, there's a change. In the 50th minute, there's a huge chance for Oussama Lemloui, who's played in behind the Tanzanian defense, and I think he's surprised by the goalkeeper, Yaqub Suleiman, who's very decisive. He rushes, and sometimes goalkeepers will like rush out and then they'll hesitate. Yaqub Suleiman sprinted out at Oussama Lemloui, and Lemloui, I think, was expecting him to hesitate a little bit, so he hesitated, and when he hesitated, Yaqub Suleiman's decisiveness just made sure that he closed the ground and closed the distance very, very quickly, and he managed to get a foot on Lemloui's shot, and it was a very, very good save. Even though he was outside of the box, if he handled it, it could have been big trouble. And Yaqub Suleiman, I thought, has been okay in this tournament. I think if Tanzania are looking for a replacement for Aisha Manula, I think he's made his case. In the 65th minute, we have the goal, and it comes through the left back, Belamari, Belamari, from Raja, who's the captain of the side, who is a player that was. Remember, Morocco came into this tournament wanting to just play under 25s. And then they played a few friendlies and they're like, no. And they bring in a bunch of experienced players. And Belamari is one of these players. And he's a player that, one of the only players in the Moroccan league that is consistently in Walid Regragi's side. And he does a great job of dribbling past everybody, cuts the ball across the face of goal, and Oussama Louis gets a foot to it, one-time finish. And this is, I haven't seen a striker in Africa. I'm thinking maybe Fiston Mayele, maybe, but I think even Louis is even better than him at this particular skill, which is running across the face of goal and having a low cross played in and just getting a flick on it and getting it past the goalkeeper. He's so good at timing the runs. He's so good at making sure he's cool and composed, making sure he gets a good angle when he does flick the ball on, so it gets past the goalkeeper. He scored, I think, even against DRC, he scored a goal like this in this very tournament, and he does it again against Tanzania. So Oussama Lemliwi, again, I think quickly trending into a top 3 striker on the African continent, if not more, from RS Berkane, the striker. Great goal, 4th in the competition, and he puts Morocco ahead. Again, after that, Tanzania are creating half chances, but really nothing doing. Lots of crosses, and Morocco have a 3rd goalkeeper, I think, now, in Mehdi Lahrar. I think he should be called up to the Moroccan national team after, of course, Yassine Bounou, after the Bergan goalkeeper, Munir Mohamdi. I think there's always been like, okay, who should it be? Initially, it was Tignauti. At certain points, I think it was Yusuf Moutia. And I think Mehdi Lahrar, at 24, 25 years old, can stake his claim for the best 3rd goalkeeper in Morocco, even though that's a position, again, that is not useless, but, the number 1 and number 2 spot have been locked up for almost a decade now. So yeah, I think Tanzania can feel good again about their participation. When they added the real quality, because if you talk about the best players, Simon Msuva, Mbwana Samata, Novetus Moroshi, these are players that are going to add real quality, particularly to the attack, to the Tanzanian attack. So when they add those players, of course, they're going to be much more competitive. Again, like Kenya, I feel like the Tanzanian fans came away from this thinking, you know what? We have a team. Maybe we're not going to win the 2027 AFCON, but we have a team, we're going to be competitive. And so they'll feel bad about exiting in the quarterfinals, but this is against a Moroccan side that I think they just lost a match against Kenya. Was it in the opening match, or it was one of the early matches in this tournament? I think that was the first time they lost in like 15 matches in the Chan or something like that. So now they won 2 in a row. They took 1 off when it was in Algeria for political reasons, and now they're gonna they're in the semifinals of the 3rd one. So this is obviously, I think, a testament to the quality of the Moroccan league. Uganda versus Senegal was not a match that I really enjoyed. Uganda had most of the ball most of the time, but man, they just lacked so much quality, in my opinion. Like Reagan Mpande was the player I think that was most active. He's playing on the left wing, even though he's right-footed, and he was just so wasteful. Like, he would show some fancy feats, and then the crosses, 4 or 5 crosses, just disgusting. Like, nobody around, very wasteful, don't understand it, Alan Okello, the most technical, the most creative player in the squad, in my opinion, simply wasn't brave enough, didn't take enough impetus time and time again when it comes against the quality sides in the Chan. Karim Motambala, good industry, good work rate, but he's not creative or technical enough. The only real players that I think I was really impressed with from Uganda was the defensive midfielder, Seranjogi. I think throughout the Chan, he's been a top player, and I think he should be probably moving to a North African club, hopefully this window, because I think he's really, really good. He's not the tallest defensive midfielder, but man, he has a lot of heart and a lot of industry. And then the center half, Torash, I think, has been good throughout the Chan as well, scoring important penalties, but leading the line back there as well. But the best players, I mean, again, overall, Uganda had more of the ball, but they created nothing. The best players were always Senegalese, in my opinion. There's a player that's 15 years old that played in every single match in this African Nations Championship, and nobody's talking about him, Musa Cisse. Like, he was really good, again, against Uganda. He was at the beginning of the goal that Senegal scored with the interception, and then from his interception, a cross came in, and then Umar Ba scored the goal. So he was at the beginning of that action. There were certain times when he would, like, just very good, like, really reminding me of Lamine Camara, not just because of the tackling and the intercepting and the overall activity in midfield, but also the technical ability. Tackling, and then I remember one time he played a beautiful looped ball over the defense, and the Senegalese player couldn't get a shot on target. But he's been incredible, Moussa Cisse, and nobody's been talking about him. Omar Ba's been very good as well. The goal scorer, Libes Gay, I think has been good. He got the assist on the cross. So Senegal, again, they use the Chan in a very specific way. They use it as a pipeline to get their players into Europe, and to maybe test some potential coaching candidates for the senior national team. That's what they did with Patial, Lamine Camara, Ibu Sane, so on and so forth from the last Chan. And this time around, they have Souleymane Diallo as a coach. Again, Moussa Cisse, Omar Ba, Libas Gay. Um, I forget, there's one more guy that's slipping my name as well, but they use it as a pipeline. They're not that worried about winning it, I think, but because they have so much quality, even though the quality is young, they managed to get themselves in these positions where they're in the semifinals for the second consecutive year as well. And then finally, Sudan versus Algeria. This was a good match. I actually, don't get me wrong, it was a very boring match, but I mean, it was a very even match. That's what I meant to say. I think Algeria were better technically. I think Sudan were much more physical, and I think they had the better chances, particularly in the air. But even though I say that, like, these are stereotypical, you think the North Africans are more technical, you think the Sudanese are going to be more physical, and that was the case. But Algeria was also very physical, and Sudan was also very technical as well. It's just Algeria was a little more, and Sudan was a little bit more. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but both teams were good at both aspects of the match, and it was a very physical match where players were, there were clash of heads, players were getting injured. I think the referee maybe was a little too lenient at times. But overall, Sudan, I love the El Hilal midfield of, Salahuddin Hassan, Rufa, and Walidin Khadr Pogba. Very, very good, the El Hilal. And then they don't have Mohamed Abdurrahman as a striker, so I don't really love the striker, but I love the fact that they're playing this entire African Nations Championship with a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old. They have a 17-year-old named Mazen Fadl and an 18-year-old named Moussa Hussein. Moussa Hussein is a player I've been hearing about for 2-3 years. When he was like 16, people were saying this guy is going to be one of Sudan's biggest talents, and you've been waiting for him to confirm. He plays for Al Mariq, so I haven't watched him that much because I'm watching Al Hilal in the CAF Champions League. But man, like this Chan, he's really exploded, and he's confirmed that he can play football at top level. So I love that they're giving chances to young players on the wings, and hopefully these are players that James Kwesi Appiah can integrate into the senior national team. And then you have, the Abuja has been good in goal, but you also have, like very experienced players like Abakar in defense, and so on and so forth. So Sudan, I think, going into this match, I thought it was 50-50. I thought, like all the people that I spoke to over here in Algeria were like, no, we're gonna win. But I really respect the Sudanese side a lot, and I don't mean to take away anything from Sudan, but this is, in my opinion, not the best Algerian side, nor is it the best Algerian coach that we could have sent to the Chan. It's one of those things, again, how do teams approach this tournament? Some are going to be going all out to try and win it, and others are just going to be like, let's just send a few players from each club, and let that be that. So yeah, anyways, Sudan threatened early. Salahuddin Hassan dribbling through a few players, cutting the ball back to Fadl, the 17-year-old, who gets a shot on goal, but Bouhalfaya makes an early kick save. Both teams were creating, if you go back and watch the highlight of the match, crosses and set pieces for both teams. And it was, like I said, a very, very physical match. And then Algeria really gifts Sudan a goal in the beginning of the second half, and it's from Adam Alilat, who over the last 2-3 years, I thought has been a decent player. I thought maybe could be a player that could integrate the national team, but he makes a play like that when all eyes are on him, and you realize sort of why he doesn't play for the Algerian national team. Just a suicide ball. He's near the corner flag, and he plays the ball to the top of the box, and while Sudan are pressing, and the ball finds its way to I think Moussa Hussein, who gets a shot on goal, and then it sort of pinballs off of a few Algerian defenders, and it ends up being an own goal. And then Algeria, has to wake up. They make a few subs. They bring in Sofiane Bayazit, who's been a super sub throughout this entire African Nations Championship. I think he has 2 or 3 goals in this tournament. And makes me think he actually should have maybe started a few of the matches. They started with Ayman Mahyous, who's the most expensive player in Algeria, the biggest wages in Algeria, the leading scorer of the last African Nations Championship with 5 goals. but he had 0 goals in this tournament, and that's probably one of the biggest disappointments for Algeria. He didn't play horribly, but could never finish when he was in the right positions. Bayezid, any half chance he would score. And to be fair, I think it was a handball. What happens is the ball gets cut back. Zakaria Draoui plays in a looping cross. Bayezid meets the goalkeeper. I think it's not a foul on the goalkeeper. Bayezid, I think, gets there at the same time as him, or even a little bit before the goalkeeper, Abuja. But I do think the ball hits him in the bicep over here. Still, he continues playing, scores the goal, and Algeria make it to extra time. Extra time was quite boring, and only half chances really. Felt like both teams were going to penalties, and there again, Algeria, for the second straight African Nations Championship, eliminated in a penalty kick shootout. So congratulations to Sudan and James Kwesi Appiah, who I think, is really going to continue to get all the plaudits he deserves over the last 2-3 years. Again, I love that Sudan are playing Mazen Fadl and Moussa Hussein, 17 and 18-year-old on the wings. I love that Senegal is playing a 15-year-old Moussa Cisse. So congratulations, Sudan, Senegal, Morocco, and Madagascar. I think it's going to be very interesting. Semifinals coming up. I was going to put a team of the tournament, but I think I'm just going to wait until the very end. But basically, the players that I've really been paying attention to overall that have impressed me. Let's do this really quickly. Clement Mzize from Tanzania as a number 9 again, even though he was wasteful against Morocco. Wissam Lemliwi, of course, from Morocco. Alan Okello, in some matches, has been brilliant, and then in the last match against Senegal. In midfield, we have Soren Jogi, who I mentioned, Odiamba, who I mentioned, Manzour from Kenya, the left-footed 20-year-old defensive midfielder, very, very good. Mohamed El Behrimat from Morocco, Rufa from from Sudan, apologies. Omar Aboud, the Kenyan left back, the captain. Man, this guy is good. Playing for the champions, Kenyan Premier League champions, Kenya Police. Man, he's really, really good. I think, I was going to say, maybe he's been the best player in the African Nations Championships. Every single game, he's really impressed me. And I'm very surprised he's still playing in Kenya. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a move before the end of the transfer window. Husseini was also good as a left back for Tanzania. And then Ibrahim Hamad, I really liked from Tanzania as a center half. Ayoub Ghazala from Algeria, really good as well. And then Toldo, the goalkeeper from Madagascar, all very good as well. Shomari Kapombe for a right back from Tanzania. Subs. We could throw in Belhamri and Boulexoud from Morocco as the fullbacks. So subs: Mizian, Abdelhamid Mizian from Algeria, Abdelhamid Youssef Mehri, Youssef Mehri from Morocco, Jefteki Tambala from DRC, Ibrahim Matobo from DRC, Ryan Ogam from Kenya, and Lalena and Dax from Madagascar. These are the players that I think have been impressing me the most. But as the tournament sort of finishes, because I think there's only 4 matches left, three matches left, I'll put out a proper team of the tournament at the very end. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to, again, try to be a lot more active now. Hope you're enjoying the beginning of the Northern Hemisphere season, the European season, and actually most of the season around the world. I hope you're enjoying it. And don't forget to support Africa's country, and we'll speak to you all very soon. Peace.